Identifying our own mind. We have identified our own mind when we understand clearly its location, nature, and function. Generally, it looks as if we know our mind. We all have minds, and we all know what state our mind is in, whether it is happy or sad, clear or confused, positive or negative, and so on. However, if someone were to ask us what the nature of our mind is, how it functions, and where it is located, we would probably not be able to give a precise answer. This indicates that we do not have a clear understanding of the mind. Because of not knowing our own mind, we identify it incorrectly. Most people, when asked what the mind is, will probably point to their heads and say that it is the brain, but this is incorrect. Our mind is principally located in the region of our heart channel wheel, or heart chakra. Its nature is clarity. This means that it is empty, like clear space, and that it is a formless continuum, completely lacking shape and color, which possesses the actual power to perceive, understand, and remember objects. It is not easy to understand precisely the meaning of clarity in this context. Put simply, clarity means something that is clear enough to perceive objects. Although, for example, clear glass, a clear sky, or a clean mirror are clear, they are not clear enough to perceive objects. They cannot perceive objects because they are inanimate objects. And although we can see reflections in a mirror, for example, the mirror itself cannot perceive objects. Although we say, "I perceive objects," we do so only through the power of mind. A person or self is not clarity because it is not clear enough to perceive or cognize objects. Only mind has the power to cognize objects. Without a mind, we are not able to perceive anything. Since only mind has the power to perceive objects, only clarity can be mind, and only mind can be clarity. In Commentary to Valid Cognition, the Buddhist scholar Dharmakirti, famous for his powers of logic and reasoning, explained and clarified the most difficult aspects of Buddha's teachings. In this, he defined mind as that which is clarity and cognizes. This definition is completely reliable and non-deceptive. In this context, clarity is necessarily mind. The function of the mind is to perceive or cognize objects, to understand or to impute objects. When we say that we understand something, we do so only because our mind understands it. Understanding is a function only of the mind. Without our mind, we are powerless to do anything. We are able to perform actions only through the power of our mind. We may say, "I created this," or "I built this," or "I painted this," and so forth. But without the mind, we cannot do anything, whether ordinary or spiritual. Our speech and all our physical actions, as well as our study, contemplation, and meditation, entirely depend upon our mind. Just as a computer functions only if it has electricity, without mind, our body is useless. Without electricity, a computer is fit only to be thrown away, and similarly, without mind, our body is fit only for the graveyard. The mind has an enormous number of functions. Beauty and ugliness, good and bad, happiness and suffering, all depend upon mind. Everything we see, hear, smell, taste, or touch with our sense awarenesses, or perceive with our mental awareness, is created by mind. How? Through imputation. An object only exists because the mind imputes it. For example, a car is merely imputed by mind. Before the imputation car, there is no car. There may be an assembly of things that is a suitable basis upon which to impute ka, but each one of these things is not the ka, and the assembly itself is not the ka. It is only through the process of imputation that ka develops. The mind imputes ka, thinking, this is a ka, and then we verbally assign the name ka. This is true of everything. The world, enjoyments, houses, cars, bodies, speech, and we ourselves all develop only through being imputed by mind. To understand this point, we can take the example of a committee choosing a chairperson to represent them. Before the election, someone is just an ordinary member of the committee, but after being elected, people will call him or her the chairperson. Chairperson is imputed or created by mind. First, the mind thinks, he is the chairperson, and then verbally people say, he is the chairperson. In this way, chairperson develops or is newly created through a process of imputation of mind. Ordained Sangha, for example, are monks or nuns through imputation, and we exist as Mary or John and so forth through imputation. This is true of everything. The entire universe exists through imputation. There is not a single phenomenon that is not imputed by mind. Everything depends upon imputation by mind for its existence. If we think deeply about this, we can understand that both samsara and the liberation of nirvana are created by mind, and also that we can abandon samsara and attain liberation and enlightenment simply by changing our mind. Mind is therefore the creator of all things, including the entire world. In Guide to the Middle Way, the Buddhist scholar Chandrakirti established that Buddha rejected any creator other than mind, presenting many valid reasons based on Buddha's teachings for proving that only mind is the creator of all things. As an example, we can look at the simple activity of making something, such as a table. The original idea for making something arises in our mind, and knowing how to do this also comes from our mind. We then make the design, and gradually, physically, make the object. But every stage of this depends upon our mind. The mind is the creator, and the body is like a machine that the mind uses to create and produce things. If our mind did not know how to make something, we would never be able to make it. Everything we do depends on knowing and understanding, which are functions only of mind. Understanding that everything is created by mind helps us to understand the power of mind. Every living being is under the control of mind. In life after life, since beginningless time, we have been under its control. Whatever our mind has wanted to do, without choice, like servants, we have done it. If our mind tells us to, we will kill ourselves. If it says, kill your parents, or kill your children, then without choice we are forced to do it. We created all our past bad actions because we were under the control of our mind. And unless we achieve a direct realization of emptiness in this life, we shall remain under its control without any freedom in countless future lives. There is nothing more powerful than the mind. When our mind is under the control of delusions, it can instantly throw us into the fires of the deepest hell. Through the kindness of Buddha's teachings, or Dharma, we now have the opportunity to understand and recognize the enemy of our delusions, and to reduce and eventually eliminate them. Dharma is the only method by which we can fully control our mind. If we fail to control our deluded mind through Dharma practice, we shall have to remain under its control and continue to experience immense suffering. This concludes a general introduction to the mind. To identify our own mind, the first of the 6 stages of training in Mahamudra, we now principally focus on 4 steps: seeking, finding, holding, and remaining. The first step is to seek our mind, the object of our meditation, by contemplating its location, nature, function, and power, as just explained. We should memorize the essence of these instructions on the mind and contemplate their meaning again and again. In this way, we try to perceive a rough mental or generic image of our mind. Initially, it will seem distant and unclear, but we should still feel that we are definitely focused on our mind. Gradually, as our practice progresses, it will become clearer and less distant. When we perceive clearly a rough generic image of our mind, we have found our mind. This completes the second step, finding the object of meditation. We then train in holding this object in meditation without forgetting. Through continually practicing in this way, when we are able to hold our mind without forgetting for about 1 minute, we accomplish the third step, holding. Through continually practicing the steps of seeking, finding, and holding, we try to remain on our mind single-pointedly, without forgetting, first for 1 minute, then 2 minutes, then 5 minutes. When we are able to do this single-pointedly for 5 minutes, we accomplish the fourth step, remaining. At this point, we accomplish identifying our own mind, the first stage of training in Mahamudra. In this context, our own mind means our root mind, or root mental consciousness, mainly located at our heart. Identifying our own mind, therefore, means identifying our root mind. As explained in the book, Understanding the Mind, there are many different types of mind, such as the 51 mental factors, but these are just parts or branches of mind, which are temporary and not stable. They manifest for a few minutes and then cease, manifest again later for a few minutes, and then cease again. The root mind can be likened to an ocean from which all the different types of minds, as well as all appearances, arise like waves. Identifying our own mind. We have identified